Hi, everyone. I'm Andre Sr. with KTVU Fox 2 in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we continue to look into stories that are of interest, especially at this time when we're all dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic that's gripping our nation and the world as well. So I'm joined now by Stacy Debroff. She is with Influence Central to talk about consumer behavior. We know our behaviors have shifted a little bit at a time like this, so we want to talk to someone to give us a little insight onto how that is. So, Stacy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Andre.
All right, so
different times, yeah.
Different times for sure. I mean, my behavior has changed for sure in terms of consuming. Give us a brief of what you have found in this research that you've been doing.
Sure. We surveyed 700 consumers on our Influence Central Insights panel because we wanted to see what people's behavior, their attitudes, how they were consuming social media, and what they expected from brands. And one of the things that came out clear from consumers is what they want is brands to be super helpful for them. 85% of us believe that we're moving into a recession. And so deals, discounts, freebies, anything that can make it less expensive to get the brands we want. We also are looking for brands to help us. So you see brands scrambling to make their products or services available mobile, e-commerce. How can we move into a more digital space with these brands?
And so you spoke a little bit about the fact that folks, as a consumer, you're thinking that, okay, things are going to be bad for a little bit. So you are trying to adjust, and you mentioned people are suspecting that we're going to run into a recession. So how does that change the customer mindset, and how does that change for the companies that have these brands?
So for the companies themselves, a lot of brands have pushed a pause button on marketing. They're just not sure how to be there or speak to the consumers. And one of the big issues on the brand side is they want to be in the conversation, but not become the conversation because they were insensitive or made a misstep. From a consumer standpoint, consumers really are shifting in our brand loyalties. We're moving a tremendous amount of our shopping behavior online. It started with groceries and now it's moving into essentials. We're becoming more comfortable with delivery services for takeout, even for fast food. Some of them have moved to delivery. So it's a grab and go economy. Either you're driving by to pick up things at a retail location, limiting shopping to essentials, and you're just fundamentally, it's woven into the whole tapestry of how we shop and engage with brands and how we think about what it is that we need. Or even with Zoom, we're all buying nice tops and we all have our yoga or sweatpants on. So
no comment there. No comment there. So you have here this report that you sent to us during the COVID-19 pandemic. 88% of consumers value cost-saving promotional brands. Now, I see these kind of buy one, get one frees out there, that type of thing. So I have seen some of the bigger companies start marketing in a very different way on billboards right now, catering. Mm-hmm. And as you said, I think they're just kind of advertising around the edges and not going fully into this issue. But they are still doing that. Tell me about that.
So one of the things that, depending on what a brand is facing, some brands are facing supply side issues, so they simply can't get their products to market. So they're trying to think about how to hold goodwill brand equity for their consumers. At the same time, the consumers, what is trending is 90% of consumers are willing to switch to a generic brand or just switch brands from tried and true favorites if you can't find it. It's not easy to get what you would typically use. And so brand loyalty is becoming untethered, which means that brands are in this quandary of how to keep conversations going. And then you see really creative things like a beer company sponsoring weddings, or it was, I think, Kentucky Fried Chicken that's offering Netflix membership for a year. So they're trying to think of how can they engage consumers, how can they be there, how can they be relevant, and a lot of it depends on are they toilet paper or are they a local restaurant that's been shut down until we unhit the pause button?
So let's talk about this for a second. So who is this benefiting in terms of the business side? Because you have these brands that have been advertising for years. They've seared their brand into the American public, but now they are unable to deliver in some way. while these mom and pop stores, I know I've been going to my mom and pop neighborhood grocery store, which I didn't do all that often before, but now they kind of have some of the things that I need. They don't have everything I want, like when I go to Target, but they have like a few bottles of hand sanitizer, which I cannot find at Target at all. So what does that mean in terms of is there going to be a shifting of the dynamics here through this COVID-19 and how business are branding and how consumers respond to them?
I think that we're going to see a shift to hyper-local marketing because different markets are opening up. We see Georgia opening up. We see California staying closed. Depending on resurgence, whether it's intermittent or with the next oncoming flu season, depending on vaccinations, we're going to see this stop and go economy of quarantining, not quarantining. And so let's say you have a national brand, but you then don't know which local stores are open or which restaurants are serving. I think you're going to see brands both from social media and in targeting in their advertising, trying to let local consumers know that this is where you can find them. This is open because they've relied on national brand marketing, assuming everybody can go in and find their stuff or come to the grocery store or shop in a big box. And that is fundamentally shifting. And one of the things that's really hard from both our perspective as consumers and also that of marketing brands is we just don't know how it's going to unfold. And so people are really cautious. There's high need. There's so many people that are unemployed. And you have this moment of tension and uncertainty that's fueling consumer anxiety. And on the same time, there are either brands that are in demand and in the market, or they have their own anxieties about furloughs, about supply, like how are they going to get the products to market? Can they even manufacture them? So you see both sides facing a tremendous amount of tension.
I want to talk about this next subject that you mentioned, is these brands helping out communities. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I see all these big companies donating their services. There is an autonomous driving company that I did a story on this week that actually they're using their autonomous vehicles to help out a food bank deliver food because the food pantries aren't open. That's just one example, of course, but I wanted to hear your perspective on how you see this changing. The brands helping out the communities in the future now.
It's interesting because the younger generations, the millennials, the rising Gen Z, have always had an affinity and a strong relationship to cause marketing. They like it when brands are being eco-friendly, when they're giving back. But this is now really transcending the entire consumer market. And when we see brands that are helping frontline workers in healthcare, that are donating meals, that are donating shoes, that are driving, like the story that you have of the autonomous car driving food pantry items to get them out to people. It's powerful. It's emotive. It's filled with storytelling, and we remember it because we think that is amazing. That is so amazing that a car manufacturer is now changing to do face shields. And I think that this comes back to this idea of what I'm calling brand equity. It's goodwill hunting. So if we might none of us are in the market, I don't think, right this second for autonomous driving car, but it makes us feel really good about them. And we're going to pay attention when we see other stories because we've now added a hook right on them for doing something meaningful, for giving back. And for many of us, when we're stuck at home, we feel that we can't meaningfully contribute as much as we want. And so to see brands taking up that social responsibility and this idea of brands being, which is also a trending idea, that brands are more than just a corporate entity, but that they have social responsibility. It's really heartwarming, and it becomes emotive, powerful storytelling, almost like the old Kodak moments. You walk away feeling really good.
Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of companies are showing those in the commercials that they're putting on TV, those type of things. Am I wrong? Because I'm watching this, I'm like, wow, they turned that around pretty quickly. But this is not by accident, you're saying?
No, I think that for all the brands, they always are thinking about some cause relation that they're doing, but it's usually been small. And I think that when they feel that they can't speak, that they can speak through actions, and that it's so we might not be able to find our favorite toilet paper right now as an example of a product that's in scarcity. But if we saw a toilet paper brand, and I haven't seen any of them doing it, but if they did, we would feel really good that they were engaged in something that was giving back to communities. And actually 54% of consumers said that social giving piece, the giving back to the community of helping people in need, swings their purchase decision. And when we think about what we're talking about, that people can't find the products they want, or they can't go to their favorite restaurants, it's a way of keeping this feeling of connection, so that when the economy does open, we are shopping with our hearts, and we're coming back to them.
Speaking of things that customers connect with and don't connect with, you have here humor or comic relief. This is very surprising when I read this information in your report. Tell me what you found.
It's amazing, because as we pass memes to each other, and we're always looking for escapism, humor, and comic relief as to break up something that seems so serious and overwhelming. We want it from Netflix. We want it from our streaming. But we don't want it from brands, because this line of what's funny and what's not, what's sensitive and what's not, it turns out that consumers don't trust brands to toe the line between funny and snarky, between being humorous and insensitive. And so they'd rather not them try to enter levity in the situation. So as an example of that, consumers don't want brands to be in the middle of a smackdown of who has the best fried chicken sandwich. That was fun. That was pre-COVID. And now we just want to know, can we get a chicken sandwich anywhere near us? And so being funny or being snarky, escapism, it's not what's working. And so what you saw is a lot of brands pull their pre-targeted marketing. We're seeing at Influence Central a surge in influencer engagement. Their impressions and audience tune-in is up about 36% across all their platforms. And so you see storytelling coming from other places. So if the brand can't be lighthearted or can't really tell an emotive story, except by demonstrating that they're doing something good, or by getting their products on market, or for some brands, it's taking care of their workers. So making sure that they're sort of sharing their responsibility across their companies. But what we see is that the storytelling and the human are moving other places. And so there are definitely things that consumers don't want them to do. And the other thing that consumers, surprisingly, from my vantage point, is that consumers report they don't want brands to be silent either. So you can't be funny. You can't really get escapist on us. We want a recognition of the situation, and we want empathy and reality. But at the same time, if brands go silent, we feel like they're not doing anything, that we might as well, we just untether that feeling of connection to them. We may have been, that was our favorite detergent, that was our favorite toothpaste, that was our favorite national chain we ate at, but now we're shifting that behavior.
That would explain why I see the commercials have shifted so quickly during this COVID-19 crisis. Now I'm understanding a little bit more about what I'm seeing on TV and why it's reflected that way. All right, let's go to online shopping now, because embarrassingly in my place right now, I have boxes from online shopping because it's just easier to order from online shopping now. You did some looking into online shopping and what consumers are doing right now with the COVID-19 pandemic affecting everything. What did you find with that?
So we found that people are increasingly becoming more comfortable with ordering online, that the preference of consumers would be to have things shipped directly to their house. So you're trending. The boxes in your apartment are completely reflective of not wanting to go out, not making unnecessary runs, the convenience. And as long as the price stays fairly comparable, we're looking at all sorts of ways, whether people for the first time are discovering online grocery pickup from a Walmart, or they are realizing what they can use an Instacart or Grubhub or delivery services. All of a sudden, people are looking very differently at how to get things. And also, I think that there's a general evaluation of what we need. And so to the extent that one thing that will definitely come out of this is we've seen a surge in companies like Amazon and Walmart in shipping, and the individual entrepreneurs that are serving the backbone of deliveries. And as people become comfortable with that, I think that what the evidence shows is that people are not going to be rushing back when retail opens. It's going to be more of a grab and go shopping economy and less of a foot traffic of showing up and wandering.
And we know that over the years, there's been concern about retail traffic because of the continuing use of online shopping. So that's something that's going to have to be looked at a little bit more. People going out to shop retail in the future because they're ordering so much online. You say you had a statistic here, how consumers plan to shop in the coming days. Tell us what you found there.
So what we found is that a dramatic number of people, 72% of consumers plan to do even more shopping online. Once you get that comfort factor, they're going for non-essentials, clothing, books, entertainment, arts and crafts for kids. A lot of people are doing do-it-yourself projects, home organizing. So these categories of interest. And also there's been a dramatic uptick in people cooking at home. And so as a result, everything related to the food category, from content to people, we just ran a second survey that showed a lot of people have bought a new small appliance during this time. So whether you're trying out a blender, or you're trying a fancy, like something different in your kitchen, people are really trying to expand pantry cooking. And so that's also affecting what they're willing to shop for online and how they're going to turn to that. And I think that retail as we used to know it is going to change. A lot of the changes that we're seeing are amplifying prior trends that we saw towards the end of 2019, but now it's explosive. So this changing of people's willingness to shop in different categories for health, for beauty, things that you might typically, somebody would want to meander a store. Instead, they're willing to do that. And we saw a beginning of that in what was called showrooming. People would go to the retail store, check out a product there, but then go and find the best price online. And so categories that we used to really want to be there, clothing, try it on, makeup, you want to see it in person, people are willing to trust that. And also one of the big issues with online grocery pickup, with which both Prime and Walmart have put big pushes behind, is that we didn't trust people to pick fruits and vegetables for us. We thought, if we're not there in the store, we're going to get the really bad lemons and the rotten bananas. And people are discovering that actually they're discerning and they're picking. So the trust around all these categories are going up. And still we have they're making returns easier. And as we see more and more free shipping offers, it's descending into all these non-essential categories where we just typically would never shop online. We're much more willing to experiment.
All right, let's talk about influencers and how they're affecting us as consumers. What did you find there? Because this is an interesting little tidbit here.
So influencers have, in order to maintain their audience and to be influential on Instagram or Facebook or a blog, they need to hold their audience, which means their content has to resonate. And most influencers have become really good at storytelling and making the content relatable. Now, some categories of influencers have obviously been impacted along with the verticals of their industries, travel, luxury. These things are not being there. But what is happening instead is we're seeing when consumers are going online, they're actually 20% of consumers, not only they continue to follow influencers, that they like the curating the content, what to watch, what to eat, cooking, whatever, fitness at home. But what we're seeing is 20% of consumers are looking for even more of this content, and a parallel amount are looking for even new influencers to follow. And that parallels the influencers seeing a dramatic growth in their audience sizes, in the amount of engagements, because consumers overall are spending a tremendous more time because we're home. So we're on social media platforms, we're on in our devices, on mobile, and influencers have a way of galvanizing storytelling and making, whether it's video, whether it's TikTok, Instagram Live, it's bringing fresh, relatable content. And actually, one of the things that's interesting about influencer content is it's become less idealized and formal. That's the rise of Instagram stories. So it's not like this beautiful, pristine moment where everything's perfect, but instead it's relatable and it feels like they're just like the audience that they're trying to talk to. And so we've seen a real surge in influencers being a go-to. And sometimes people find the influencers, and sometimes it's just by Googling, they come across their content.
And it looks like you just mentioned a moment ago that more people are cooking. We were talking about the grocery store, and you found what people are valuing the most here in terms of content, what consumers are looking for. Tell us about that.
So it's so interesting. And actually, we just saw a statistic from a second survey that we fielded, Andre, where 35% of people report that they are cooking at home for the first time, which makes you really wonder, like, is it all frozen food? Is it all grab and go? Are these like just millennials? Like, what are we talking about? But 85% of people are really dramatically cooking at home. And especially when the days blur together and there's not much to do, cooking can become a really fun activity and something to look forward to. But so what people are doing is they want recipes with just a few ingredients, like 5 ingredients, 3 ingredients, perfect. Or pantry cooking, that's my term for just what's in the pantry and how can I put it all together and somehow come up with this mashup of something great to eat. Raiding the freezer, people are looking for new and interesting recipes. And they're also turning to a lot of online content where you can watch a video. And so you can go on YouTube, you can go on Instagram, and someone's teaching you. Like now, one of the things that's become a big surge is bread baking. Who knew? But everyone's trying their hand at baking bread or sourdough bread. And that's part of the reason that none of us can find flour right now in the grocery stores, because everyone is cooking at home and trying things they would never try. But they're like, I'm going to make some bread. It should be great.
So we were talking about social media and the surge in social media use. Tell me what you found, because it's something that we all do.
So we're, in terms of social media, we're using our phones. And that's why you've seen all the platforms switch to vertical video, because most of us are holding our phones and watching the video streaming. We also, what's interesting is that people are starting to be more creative of their own content. People are like, listen, I'm stuck at home with my kids. The least I can do is show you 15 pictures of them during the day.
Oh, so we see a lot of those.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because it used to be that TikTok was really a platform that was primarily for Gen Z. It was very young and hip. And now all of a sudden, all the Gen Z parents are on it. And you're starting to see really funny content come out where a mom might be driving their kid. The school is opened and a mom drives by in an SUV and throws the kids and their backpacks and like drives off. And you're like, wow, this is a total transformation of a platform that was all about teens. And now we're watching TikTok videos. And so it's really engaging. People are creating more content and we're absorbing more content. And so we've seen just surges of platform traffic is up by like 68%. And it's across all platforms. People are reading long form blogs. We're tuning into Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, even Pinterest has made a rise. And one of the things you see on the social platforms is an increasing way of people to be able to shop right from the post. So to the extent that product's available, to the extent that it's e-commerce, we're going to see more and more of creative shoppable options across all these platforms.
Wow. Stacey, it seems like our consumer behavior is changing right before our very eyes. Coronavirus is doing a whole lot more to us than we had anticipated, not just making us sick, but changing, it seems like, our behavior as well when it comes to consuming, doesn't it?
I think it's changing the very fabric of our lives, daily lives, and also our consumer lives. And I think that we're going to continue to see some fascinating and unexpected tumultuous change in consumer behavior as the months unfold ahead of us.
All right. Stacey DeBroff, you've given me some really good insight, and you've kind of put into perspective some of the things that I've noticed happening, the commercials that I've seen, the changes that these brands are doing. So now I have a better idea, and I understand kind of what I'm looking at more now so than ever. So I thank you for your insight and for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. You have a great one now.
Thank you. You too.